So, elected in the evening, sacked in the morning, affirmed in the afternoon. If you want to know what it takes to survive and thrive in Nigeria's fraught political world, well, just ask Ikenga Ugochinyere, the lawmaker representing Ideato North and South in Emo State. Few Nigerian politicians are at once as popular and as controversial as Mr. Ugochinyere, the self-confident PDP member of the House of Representatives. He's never far from the news, but in September he was in it for reasons he would much rather have avoided. He was removed as a member of the House of Reps by an elections petitions tribunal, which ruled that he was not validly nominated in the PDP's primary election. It ordered the Electoral Commission, INEC, to conduct supplementary elections and to exclude Mr. Ugochinyere and his PDP party from that ballot. Mr. Ugochinyere is, of course, known to be a fiercely combative politician, and he immediately approached the appeals court to challenge his disqualification. And today, that appeals court has affirmed his election, and he has reclaimed his mandate. So, having emerged from this latest predicament, and having previously braved the worst of Nigerian politics, including gun attacks, what happens next? Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by Ikenga Emo Ugochinyere, a member of the House of Representatives and spokesperson for the opposition coalition of United Political Parties, or CUPP. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for
I thought you'd have a broad smile on your face, given the kind of victory that you've achieved today.
Yeah, but we were happy, and at the same time we were been asking ourselves whether it was it, considering what we went through and the lives that was lost. But at the same time, we were actually happy, but we are not really celebrating because the task ahead is also challenging.
Absolutely. But broadly speaking, your reaction to this appeals court verdict that has gone in your favor now?
Well, relieved. And the first place is, I don't know the right word to use, but then we are quite appreciative of the courage displayed by Justice Gumel, Peter Afem, and Aisha Menamo, that boldly restated principles of law that the Supreme Court, both the Appeal Court and the Supreme Court, just recently have also stated very clearly, and also being able to resolve those issues clearly. In the first place, we ought not have been on this journey because we're talking about a pre-election issue of primary venue, which was litigated by those under the Constitution that have right to litigate over it up to Federal High Court, Appeal Court, and to Supreme Court. Supreme Court cleared me to contest, and I think that should have ended the matter. Now, they went back again to the Federal High Court again, both the Labour Party and the APC and different people, and they also lost. So after the election, then they returned back again to the same issue, trying to talk about a judgment of another particular candidate. Those judgments were there when I won my own Supreme Court, and those judgments were there when I also won at the Federal High Court. And the most important thing is that we now forget about that the election is about the supreme will of the people. And here we are running about the issue of where our primary head, which was held in a way because of insecurity, which everybody is aware, INEC monitored, and the Supreme Court also affirmed. And now you are running around it. We have a contest here, and a contest that I was in exile. I was not in Emo State when that election held, and then you won one polling unit. And it's also very important, I can like to say it so that children can understand what will go through when history about this is also reviewed. You, out of 346 polling units, you got one polling unit out of 346. You came third. You have 2,000 votes, and then you dragged us through this process, because some people believe that it's also possible that you can come from last to the first position. So we appreciate this judgment. We are happy about it, but our country should go past beyond this kind of barbaric challenges of getting one polling unit and then you want to snatch a mandate that was so popular that I wasn't even around when it happened. So we feel relieved. We're excited about the judgment, but I think that we should go past beyond this kind of challenges, yes.
But I mean, you must have been astonished when the Elections Petitions Tribunal, in the context of what you just told us, disqualified you.
I was shocked. Didn't you see my live transmission that day?
I did.
Not because of the respect I have. I was shocked in the sense that here you have 3 tribunals in the same location, in the same Maraba. One says the venue of the election issue is a pre-election matter that cannot be challenged. The other one said the same thing. And then when it got to my own, and then you now said that it is something that is pre and post-election. And then you said the same thing on Jonas Okeke. You said the same thing on my House of Assembly candidate, Kana Yonko, who also won the election, that it is pre- and post-election matter. We showed you the judgment of the Supreme Court. We showed that to Justice Apovi. This is the position of the Supreme Court, from Federal High Court to appeal to Supreme Court. And these same people that is before you have also, after that Supreme Court judgment that was against Honorable Jones, gone to the court to see if they can get victory. We won also in Federal High Court and appeal court up to like 4 or 5 times. And now they come back again after the election. And they are not challenging one single polling unit. Of course, they have only one polling unit out of 346. And now all of a sudden, you now cited the case that was in place even before the amendment to the Electoral Act. There were recent cases that also we put, Ayotela case and some other cases that were very clear. Even the presidential election petition appeal tribunal that also have stated issues of nomination, up to nomination, and also that is a pre-election matter. And you know the painful thing, I challenge the nomination process of the APC and Labour Party. In that same judgment, the judge said, I don't have the locus to challenge it because it's an internal affairs of that political party and I should have gone to the Federal High Court. Then 20 minutes into reading of the judgment, he said they have a right to challenge my own. And then my election was voided and I was even disqualified from the proposed rerun. It was very hurtful. I felt so pain, and that was why you saw the way I reacted on that. But I had faith that this can be corrected, and that is why we immediately assembled our team and approached the Federal High Court. You saw the back and forth and so on and so forth, but I thank God that the President of Court of Appeal was so determined by her public conduct to ensure that the appeal court does not go left, right, and center, giving conflicting judgment, and made effort to ensure. You saw where they moved all the panel to Abuja for northern states and the panel to Lagos for southern states. And nobody knew who these judges were. This was part of a way of saving those judges from pressure. Even though some dubious politicians were sneaking around looking to find out who those people were. So these were efforts made by the woman to ensure that this process is less controversial, and we applaud her for that. And possibly that is also why we benefited from that fair adjudication.
Well, that's actually very impressive, what you just told us. But given what happened at the tribunal level and what has now happened at the appeals court level, what confidence or lack of confidence does that give you in the judiciary?
Just coming from the office, now I'm just coming from the parliament where I met with a group of reform-minded lawmakers that had Abase, Mustafa, and so on and so forth. What was the subject of conversation? We said Nigerians cannot continue to go through this process, that we are losing it. The essence of democratic election is for the people to choose who they want to lead them. Now we are moving away from that, whereby people will make selections, and then along the line, for whatever reasons, somebody they did not elect happens to be the leader. Then how do we reform not just the electoral process, but the judicial process, to ensure that, first of all, that attention is paid more on who the people want, which means anything that has to do with the period or post-election before the actual voting should be dispensed of by the tribunal, by the court, before we go to voting. Once people cast vote, attention will not be focused whether that vote was right or wrong, but not about the person's eligibility, also because somebody defeats you, and then because of another issue, you take away the mandate. That we must put a stop, whereby everything about a candidate qualification, eligibility must be concluded before actual voting. So once there is vote cast, what the tribunal will be doing is discussing about the validity of those votes in terms of whether it's overvoting or whether there is rigging, and anything outside that, don't get involved in that. Yes, this has reduced my confidence. There's a lot of work, but I must tell you, one of the biggest problems the judiciary is facing is not just even the judges. It is we politicians. It is politicians that instead of going to win an election, we sit in one corner, and when they lose, they start looking for judges and start putting them under pressure. The political class, first of all, are the ones bastardizing the judiciary. They are the ones looking for discipline. They are the ones putting them under pressure. So we must accept that fact. Yes, nobody is exempt, both in the judiciary and in the political class. But the bulk of the strength, the judges sit on these matters. It is politicians that come running all over the place, and that is why I feel we must find a way, to draw this line that these issues does not linger into after election is conducted.
Well, that's a very important point that you raise. And it's particularly relevant because you are a member of the House of Representatives. The people depend on you. That's why they elected you to raise issues like this. I mean, you've reclaimed your mandate and they're going to ask, well, what do you now intend to do with it? And I'm very glad that you're saying the things you're saying, because I mean, we heard, for example, both Atiku Abubakar, the ostensible leader of your PDP party, and Peter Obi of the Labour Party, both talking about intensifying their efforts as the opposition against the presidency of Bola Tinubu, which is expected of an opposition. But they've also been talking of the PDP with the Labour Party and other opposition parties forming an alliance in the National Assembly in order to force through reforms. Do you subscribe to that move?
I subscribe 100% that reform is long overdue. And that is why the like-mans, the reformers, part of the public presentation we're making next week is about the bills that we intend to push through first reading next week, which the root is all about restructuring, both issues of electoral reform. We're looking at the ways electoral reform, how these electoral officials are appointed is also very important, because that helps in the kind of influence people have on them. The appointment process, then the disciplinary process when people make mistakes, do things they are not supposed to do, announce a figure that is not even actually the right figure. We want to do that. We're not talking about also how do we reduce the cost of running the political process. Now you have a political process that once you're elected, you go through long litigation for 1 year or thereabout. By the time you're settling, then they're talking about party congress, then they're talking about the next election, then you now start using money to start preparing. These days, we're even advanced now. You can see governors who are now paying for hotel rooms in their states so that nobody can go and see them. So you can see all this West. We can
I wonder
find
who
a way.
that governor might be.
He's in 2 states. Now, what we're not talking about, should we go back on the issue of a single term presidency and governorship, a 6-year single term, a 5-year single term? Should we go back again on rotational so that we de-escalate these tensions and everybody have a seat on the table, both the presidential issues and both the governorship issue, rotating among the senatorial zone, so that we can bring these reforms that will first of all reduce tension and the too much expenditure and pressure people bring in the process. And then more importantly also, how do we digitalize the process? These are, I don't want to talk about these bills that will be coming up next week. How do we digitalize the process in such a way that we remove those human errors, those activities of, militia group talks and so on and so forth that keep bastardizing the process? How do you get these votes cast at once and it's electronically registered, printed like a receipt, and everybody have it before you even go to the collection centers? Reforming the electoral process, reforming the political process. If we don't do it, then if you like, you can do opposition from night to tomorrow, you will not achieve much. And that is why we want to focus on those reforms. And the 10th House of Representative leadership is also pro-reforms. I will discuss some of these issues, and most of them agrees that we must find a way to reform that process. And that's why you're going to see some of those restructuring bills, because we must reduce tension, reduce those costs, reduce those loss of confidence we're having in the electoral process. And also the judicial reform. Let me tell you something. There should be no reason why somebody should be sworn in office without doing away with all the cases. Because people now get into office, they are now using the influence of that office to continue to remain in office. So we must find a way now that litigations after election must end before swearing in, before you go in. That is very important. We must look at the issue of, is it going to be one single term of 6 years, so that we can have development continuity. So once you get in, even if you want to run away from your godfather, you will run away without any consequences facing you, because you're not going back to see for the mandate. And then how do we now institutionalize the issues of checks and balances that has to do with state assemblies? Because if the electoral process is streamlined, independent candidate with independent mind can emerge, and then they can be able to add relevant questions. Unlike what you have in state house of assembly now, where before they move a motion, some of them, they will require the permission of their governors. These things have debased the process. So running around these issues is the key reasons why I have told you by next week we'll be making presentation of some of these pro-reform bills.
Well, it's very encouraging hearing you talk about this. I mean, as I said, that's one of the reasons why we need good people, focused people who are in the National Assembly, and the things that you're saying are very encouraging. But you talked about these things leading to improving elections. You've got governorship elections coming up on Saturday. Emo State is one of them. Your state, you've got Kogi and Bayelsa, but let's talk about Emo State. I understand you're the Director General of the campaign there. Are you still determined to topple your arch rival, Hope Uzodimma, from his perch as governor of Emo State?
I don't like considering him as an arch rival. I think he's the one that is considering me for whatever he is considering me. I'm just a messenger of truth and a people's interest defender, advocating for the common interest. Maybe people find what I do uncomfortable, sorry, but I can't change about that. But in terms of leadership guard change in Imo, is long overdue. In the first place, we never elected him, so you can't even ask for a renewal of a mandate that nobody gave you. It's not a question of whether he will win or lose. The most important thing is that the right thing must be done for society to keep functioning. Is he the right person for the job? No. Was he elected in the first place? No. 388 polling unit, you remember how he used it to emerge. So definitely tomorrow by 10:30 a.m., I'm making a live broadcast to Imo people on all the radios and TVs and Nigerians to state clearly the roadmap to Saturday. My position will be loud as usual. I don't hide about my position. These things will be very loud and clear. But more importantly, is how do we have a rank-free process? Because the process is being bastardized. I watched on your TV, you saw when Honorable Jones was shouting and other people because they wanted to off the camera and so on and so forth. A lot have gone wrong. Electoral officers were posted under the interest of a particular candidate in the election. You now see electoral officers who are being told to defend a particular interest in those local government areas. You are seeing people recruiting ad hoc staff that are even members of their political party. And let me tell you, I appreciate the IG last time by saying that he has removed or deployed Bade.
The Commissioner of Police.
In decent society, Bade is supposed to be in prison in the first place. So it's not like it's a too much favor. You saw what he did in Adamawa? That was an act of electoral treason. Now you brought him and left him in Owerri. What were you expecting him to do on Saturday? These were people who rode the APC, the armored tanks, all over the place. I was also a victim of his excessive use of power. You saw the many charges that was formulated by him. He's not a police officer. Normally, he's not supposed to be there. And not just only him. There's other officers under him too, if you want this process to be fair. So we hope and pray that the president and the presidency and the leadership of security agencies must find a way to ensure that these security agencies are neutral come Saturday. And INEC chairman have a duty to redeploy Favour, or even if she must be there, she must not be allowed to handle sensitive material because she has publicly said and pledged her allegiance to a particular candidate. So she will baptize the process. So if you don't want Imo to slide into crisis and anarchy on Saturday, election must be transparent, and not just transparent, seen to be transparent. And people should freely go and cast them. And again, I have had information on people trying to sabotage transmission. INEC must ensure that these beavers and all this equipment, even before they are deployed to the polling, are working effectively, and that no electoral officer should leave the polling without clicking send. Once these results are sent, it will reduce the pressure that will be brought at the LUGA collection center, so that people, if you win election, you know you win election. If you lose election, you know you lose election. I think election should not be war. You book the entire hotel room in a state, so nobody can enter the state. No observer can enter any of those states. These things are barbaric. These are things.
Is that a fact from what you?
Of course, it's a fact. They are not denying it. Even another state have also emulated it. And again, there's something tomorrow I will raise. There have been evidence, proven evidence, of some of these actors bypassing the issue of accreditation of the beavers. So, and why we must make it public? To avoid the situation whereby you go to election and somebody uploads 1 million into the machine in different locations and say he has won, and you go to the beavers machine, you will see that it looks like it's accredited. But when you request for the back-end server, you will now see that those things were accredited simultaneously at the same hour. This is why some of these people want to kill me, because of simple truth that will help to deepen our electoral process. But so, I cannot run away from saying this truth.
Well, I think a lot of people would hope that you don't run away, but they also hope that obviously you will not be attacked and that you will remain hale and hearty doing the work that you're doing. But it sounds like the security situation in Emo State is likely to be really grave on Saturday.
Because there are people who believe that they must win at all costs. And with everything they have done, they still feel so scared. Those are the same people chasing me all over the place, chasing other people all over the place. You know, trying to buy up INEC, trying to buy up the security agencies and so on, determining who should be placed where and how. They have even bought new APC that will be deployed to some LUGAs and so on and so forth. The point is that if people are allowed to vote freely, some of those people will come third or fourth like they did in the last election.
But are you going to go to Emo State?
Me? Of course, definitely I will be in Emo. Why would I not be in Emo? The IG has promised, the army has promised that nobody is going to be killed. We should believe them. But this time, we will defend ourselves in case anybody wants to come and kill us. So I'm making my broadcast tomorrow on the roadmap to that election. And then I will read to my people also. We are going to go into the election. Let me tell you something. Election does not mean that you must win. You must have that open mind. But all you need, let the process be transparent. So that if you win, everybody will know that you have won. But when you come now, a polling unit have 900 registered voters, then you now score 899. Even the dead people also are accredited. That happened in the supplementary election, where even people will assess the back end and we saw it. People that they have done their burial ceremony, will also, their voters card was accredited. So this is the level we are descending into. Tomorrow you will see it. So we should not allow our country to be getting to that point. And security agencies, they know the file of everybody in this country. You know people who have criminal past, you know people who are criminal. So you don't need to aid people who you know stand risk to the survival of democracy and the system. Because tomorrow people will come and go, but the institution that we build today is what will stand. But if we corrupt the entire institution because of one irrelevant person, then at the end of the day, our children will still continue to go to this war. Right. And I think it's barbaric. That's why it irritates me to have this kind of conversation. Having defeated somebody, one polling unit, and he got one polling unit out of 346, and now we are running from one court to another. I think it's barbaric. People should be honorable enough to know when to let go. And process must be free, and not just free, seem to be free. And once the outcome comes out from that process, we will be able to accept it. And that's all that we are asking on Saturday. Right. It's not about individualization. Emo is for everybody. If you say you have done very well, then you should not panic. Let the people go. Today, you know, in Emo, we don't have local government system. Erosion is cutting us like in Ideato now. The market has gone. The road has cut. I don't even know how they follow to come and campaign inside, whether they use a helicopter. So if you want to, to be re-elected, you show people your scorecard so they will see it. There's nothing personal about this. It's just that some people feel you don't have a right to question them. You don't have a right to have an alternative view. Then how can society improve if people are not able to point out things that are wrong? The democracy we have today, if our founding fathers did not speak up, if people who fought for human rights in the 80s and 90s did not do that, we will not have a society today. And what kind of society are you going to have when people are not allowed to freely say who they want to elect? It mustn't be about you. The institution mustn't be about you. Go there and people are being arrested, dumped in detention. These things are not necessary. If you're popular, like I told you, I'm not boasting about it. My people love me. I don't even know why they love me so much. I was in exile, sleeping. And I woke up and they say I have won. And not just won, with a huge margin, placing them third with only one polling unit. So if you're popular, you should be bold enough to go to election and let the people decide. So that's why this kind of conversation irritates me. Because I know that if you do a free and fair election and I don't win, I will go home. I don't need even to go to court.
Well, I want to say congratulations once again on your victory at the appeals court. And I'm sure a lot of the people who support you would be absolutely over the moon. Thank you very much indeed. Ikenga Ugochinyere is a member of the House of Representatives, spokesperson for the opposition coalition of United Political Parties, or CUPP. Thank you.
Thank you.